Okay, hello everyone. Happy Monday and welcome to our last official week of our live Zoom room training. We are hitting legs today, lower body strength and core. Starting off talking about the equipment you're going to need. We will be using our chair, our bench, our ottoman, something along those lines. And of course, I have my 8-pound dumbbells and then those loop bands for those of us who don't have dumbbells. And the last thing you'll need is your mat, where we are going to start this party off by laying down. And I'm also going to take another preventative measure because last time we had a little disconnect situation going on. There we go. My secondary recording. Okay, so come on down. We're going to lay on our back, tucking all the way down with our palms open, lifting up one leg, grabbing that knee with opposite hand. Big breath in, and then we'll exhale and pull that knee all the way down as close to the floor as we can get it. Bringing it back up to center, not spending any time down on the floor. Reaching, grabbing that other one, same inhale, exhale, crossing all the way over, that is 2. We are doing 10 total. So you might be able to get a little bit closer to the floor than me. We're working with whatever range of motion we have, and we're doing 10 of them, 5 on each side. So you might find as you go through these ones that your range gets a little bit better as we are loosen everything up. That is the goal on these ones here. And remember to also use that breath. That exhale is going to help lead you and guide you a little bit closer down towards that floor. Once you're finished 10, we're going to hit some of our 90-90 switches. So you can have a seat up in this 90-90 position that we know and love, trying to create those 2 90-degree angles at our knees. Some of us might feel a lot more comfortable leaning back, but hopefully you can do this without leaning back, just sitting as upright as possible. Locking our heels in place, we're going to flip the legs over. That is 1. We are doing 10 of these total, 5 on each side. So again, if you need that support from the arms, the hands, eventually then this will become more comfortable as we are warming up, waking up everything in our hips through the internal and the external rotation. And one day we might be able to get both our butt cheeks on the floor, although some of us might have one hip that is not on the floor, and that's okay. So 10 of them. Once we're done 10, we're going to stop on one side. Doesn't matter which one you want to start with. Taking our shoulders, we'll square them off to one leg, and then we'll square them off to the other leg, and then we shall switch. So once again, we'll take the shoulders, square, square, and that's 2. We're going to do that 2 more times on each side. If you need a little reminder on that square, you can cross up your arms like so, and then see when those elbows kind of align around that knee. And then we switch. So once again, we're trying to just get that little stretching feeling going on in our hips. So we'll do that 1 more time on each side. Trying to move just through the torso. Again, working with whatever range we got going on this hour of the day, this time in our lives. We'll get that last one going on there. And then we shall stand up to the top, and we are going to need some space around us so we don't kick anything over, because we have our leg swings coming at you up next. First one, again, we always want to hold on when we're doing these, is a forward-backward leg swing. There and back is a 1 count, and we're doing 10 total on the forward-backward. This one will feel that opening in the front of the hip as well as through the back of the leg, the hamstring. 10 times there and back. And then we will turn and face the wall. You can grab on with both hands now. Side to side, getting that same kind of stretching feeling down the inner and the outer thigh, inside of the leg, outside of the leg. But again, we are not forcing anything. We don't want to kick so high that we feel like we're going to pull anything. Once you're done, again, 10 times there and back. Up, switching. Again, making sure that you're not too close to anything, that you are going to kick anything or anyone. There and back 10 times. And trying to stay standing nice and tall. And then we will go that side to side, loosening up all the things in our hips through this lateral one. So we'll work through both the forward and the sideways, and then we have some lunges up next. Now for these lunges, we are going to cross and stack our arms up in this tabletop position, stepping back into a lunge, adding 1 prominent turn into that front knee at the bottom, standing back up to the top, and then switching and doing that same thing to the other side. We'll count all of these, and we're doing 10 total, 5 on each side. We want to make sure that both of our knees are bending. A little bit of balance. We're hitting 90 degrees at both knees. And again, our arms are staying up in that tabletop, elbows crossed position the whole dang time through our 10. Don't get too excited about being done lunges because we have one more variation of lunges. Once we're finished those twisting ones, we're going to go into the ones where we reach our arms up and above our head. Trying to keep those arms completely straight the whole entire time. This one's going to target much more of the front of the hip. We'll feel that back leg hip opening up as we step back. Once again, trying to meet those 90-degree angles and keep those arms straight the whole time as we go through 10. 5 on each side. Here we are. Okay. And then what do we got next? I got my list here. Perfect. So we'll finish up those ones, and then we have one more version of lunges, the side lunge. We'll be stepping out into the side, shifting back to that starting position, and then pushing ourselves up to the very top, catching our balance as per usual, and then reversing that back the other way. As I step out into the lunge, my arms are coming in front of me to help promote those hips to be pushed back behind us. We're getting that nice stretching feeling in the inner thigh, and then we switch inner thigh, and then we step ourselves up to the top, standing tall between each of our 10 reps. 5 of these on each side. You got it going on. All right, hopefully you are getting warm. We have 2 more movements in this here warm-up. The next one is all about our glutes. We're going to activate, warm up our glutes. You're not feeling that already. With our hip-loaded step through. So the first thing we want to do is shift all the weight and essentially balance on one leg. That balancing leg is going to be soft in the knee. Then we'll hinge our hips back. Wherever this opposite leg here ends up, it ends up. We're not going to worry about it. We will align our opposite arms with those legs, and then we'll pull those hips back and through, driving this foot in front of that standing one, hinging back, and then exhale and pulling forward, trying to make this glute, this hip do all of that work. 15 of these bad boys on each side is going to make sure that we have a nice active hip and glute situation going into our exercises that we're going to start with. So we'll get 15 on this side, and then I'll let you guys switch. 15 on the other side. You got it. And this one really, you have to feel this out. We want to really make sure that we're feeling loaded in that hip. Because, I mean, we could just kind of step forward and backward 15 times. You're not going to get this the same as if you really focus on pushing those hips and putting that weight into that hip before you pull up and forward. You got 15 times to practice that on both sides. So we'll get that one going on. The last and final movement is going to be back on the floor where we started, and it's all about our core activation now. We're going to work with some dead bugs. So come on down onto the floor once you're finished those step throughs, and we're going to finish you off with 2 versions of our dead bugs. Both of them are meeting us on our back with our arms up and our legs up in this 90-degree position. First one, we're going to lower opposite arm and opposite leg while keeping that low back completely stuck and fixed to the floor. That's the most important part, which is why I'm keeping my knee bent like this, because if I was to do this with straight legs, it's first of all not a good idea for myself in my current situation, but second of all, it doesn't allow me to keep my back down, which is why I'm keeping my legs bent. Although if you can do this with straight legs, then you can go ahead. Very important, this one is that coordination, connecting our hands and our legs to make sure that only 2 limbs are moving at the same time. 20 reps, my friends. So we're doing 10 of these on each side, 20 reps total. And then we do have one more version, so don't get too keen on standing up once you're finished these ones, because the next version is going to be that paused pressure dead bug. So we'll get through our 20, that's 10 on each side. Don't accidentally do 40, which I don't think you will, because these ones should be really feeling in your core. And then we're going to stay down here, take that palm, push it against opposite knee, and work that single side only through 10 on each side. So we'll go 10 over here, and then we switch, creating that really great pressure between that hand and foot. You know, the kind that if I was to come and try to pull it apart as you're doing it, I wouldn't be able to because you got it so tight, and you'll feel that a lot through all the muscles in your core, your abdomen. 10 and 10. And again, if you were not warm, you will be after this. You should feel very active and tight in your core and ab muscles, because that was the goal on that one there. And that's going to conclude this here warm-up. We're going to get you started on our first 2 exercises, which are going to require this chair. Weights for this first part are going to be optional. Some of us are going to want to use them. Others, maybe not. You probably might not want to use them. You can use them for either or. And anytime you want to add them in, then you can go for it. Keep them close. What we're starting with today is going to be working on a timer. We have a 60-second timer that is going to count us down doing our split squats. So we're going to be working with these split squats, doing much more than we would normally do if we were actually counting our reps, which again, we're not doing today. We'll have that back foot elevated. If you'd like to come on and join me, doing about 5 to 10 warm-up reps on each side before we start that first official timed 60-second round. Then you come on up. Again, body weight is a great place to be. If you want to go ahead and add weights, you can hold either 1 or 2 dumbbells down beside your knee like this. And then we'll be going down to 90 degrees, pushing ourselves up for 60 seconds. So you can come on up here, do 5 to 10 reps. You can choose that range, just to kind of get your body ready for this movement here. Once you've completed those 5 to 10 on one leg, we will switch and we'll do the same amount on the other side. Keeping in mind, this is not our first official set, okay? For the first set, like I said, we are going to be stuck on this timer, which I'm going to make sure is set right now, which is going to count us down 1 minute on each side. The nice thing about these is that we're going to take 30 full seconds of rest between each leg and between the split squats and the next exercise, which is the hip thrust, which will also be on our timer. So the nice thing about the timer is that we don't have to count, so we can really focus on other things like feeling the exercise and really challenging ourselves by potentially holding those weights or challenging our depth, making sure we're getting down to 90 degrees. Okay. So hopefully you're ready, because if you're not, you're going to start this off. 1 minute over here, 30 seconds of full-on rest, 1 minute on the other side, and then 30 seconds of rest into the hip thrust, which we'll talk about when we get there. Starting in 5 seconds. So get yourself set up, and if you want to grab onto your weights, it's completely on you. 3, 2, 1, and let's go. Starting that first set. Working with these guys, oh yeah, for 1 minute, trying to get down to that 90 degrees, making sure that both of our knees are bending. We know the drill with these split squats because, dang, we do them pretty much every single week, so we should be getting pretty good at them by now. That being said, to make sure we're in the right place, then we want that 90 degrees at the front and the back. If we're feeling too much stretch in this hip, we might be a little bit too far away. We might want to move closer. And if we feel like this knee is pushing forward like this, you might want to take a slight step away from that chair or bench. Okay, 20 seconds on the same leg, breathing, because that's something that we're going to need to do to get through these sets, which, by the way, we are doing 3 rounds total. This is the first one, first official one. Okay, 3, 2, 1, and we're going to step that foot forward. I would recommend you just kind of stay in the same place. Take some deep breaths. Think about that burning leg that you just produced in that first minute. We're going to try to do the same thing on the other leg now. So as far as this point, we're most likely following a normal tempo. Again, potentially you're adding those weights in your hands. So whatever you just did over there, we're going to take over here starting in 3. Lift up that leg, 2, and let's go. On to that second side, working with our second set. Again, we're going to have 2 more opportunities to do this one after this first set. And we're also going to talk about some things in the next 2 sets to make this more or less challenging. Probably talk about those more challenging weights, but of course, we'll try again to keep doing this because we already did one leg. We don't want to have that uneven, imbalanced situation of, making one side really strong and then kind of wimping out on the second side. 20 seconds left. Remember, again, to inhale down and then exhale and push yourself out. This is the hardest part, is that up face. So that's where we'll use that exhaling breath. 10 seconds left. You got this. Oh yeah. And again, should be feeling a lot more challenging than our normal split squats. Rest. Okay, so the second exercise, we have this 30 seconds of rest, is going to be a hip thrust. Now, in terms of weights, if you'd like to add some weights, we're going to put them on top of our hips. Same deal though, if you don't want to add weights, you don't necessarily have to, but of course, if you add that resistance to the top of your hips, by having your dumbbell or dumbbells right here, it's going to make things more challenging for you. So if you know you're really strong at hip thrusting, then we'll go ahead and grab those dumbbells, place them on our hips, and here we go. Lowering ourselves down, upper back on that chair or bench. If you are using weights, we're gonna hold them in place, and let's do it. 60 seconds of this hip thrust, where we're trying to meet that very top end position, squeeze our glutes, try to contract them, not leave this top position until we really feel them going on, which we're probably going to feel a lot more than our normal hip thrusts because of those split squats that we just did, which really do get the back of the hips, the glutes going on. So by the time we're here, we should be feeling this, which I probably don't need to tell you. 20 seconds left, my friends. So in these ones, on the next couple sets, if we do want to increase the intensity, make these more challenging, we're going to pause. So we'll push up to the top and hold for 1, 2, even 3 seconds before we let down and rest. Okay, so that was our first set. Very nice work. We are doing it again, starting in 20 seconds, because again, we have this 30-second round of rest between each movement, each side. Split squats. Here we are for our second of 3 sets. So we're going back into this first set. And if you want to make this one more challenging, you could potentially, again, add those weights if you didn't have them in the first set, or if you don't want to add the weights, or if you already have them in your hands. What we're going to do is slow down. We'll take more time to reach that bottom position. You can count, or you can just find a nice rhythm. We can go 1, 2, 3, even counting up to 4 or 5 seconds on those lowering phases, which, if you want to try it, it makes things a lot more challenging because we're adding more time to that eccentric or that negative lowering phase, which makes things feel cranked up a whole lot. 20 seconds left. So remember that whatever you get going on this side, you have to do it one more time on the other side. And then on your third set, if you want to switch it up, make it harder, easier, you can. You need to stay consistent on what you're doing right now, what you're feeling right now. 3, 2, 1, and once again, we can step that foot down, keep them in place so we don't have to adjust and play around with how close or far we are because you already found that point. And take some deep breaths because you're gonna need them. Going into our second side of these split squats, which starts in 10 seconds. So a couple deep breaths. I'm gonna try to do the same dang thing on the second side. Ready? And here we go. So again, maybe you worked with the exact same thing that you did on the first side. Maybe you added in a bit more time to that lowering phase. Whatever it was, we will try to do it again over here for 35 more seconds. There you go. So we'll try to make everything as even as possible, especially when we're on a timer like this. The first, 10, 20, even 30 seconds is kind of like no problem. And then it starts to get really hard, really fast, which you might be feeling right now. So again, we'll try to keep it even. 15 more seconds left. Going through those last 2 or 3 reps that you have, whatever tempo you're choosing. 5 more seconds. Give me 1 more. 3, 2, 1, and woo. Okay, so we'll step out of that one, and we will get going and set up for those hip thrusts. So like I said on the first set, if we do want to increase the intensity, make these ones more challenging for ourselves, then we are going to push up and hold that top squeezed position where we're really feeling our glutes, and essentially just not leave until we really feel that tension and action going on in our backside. Let's go. On to our second set. Same deal. If you want to try adding weights to your hips, completely on you. If you have them, that is, of course. And that same paused top can be applied with or without the weights. So it's something that we can all think about. Again, we have one more round. After this, we got this. For the glutes, for the hips. Okay, 20 seconds left. There it is. So again, 3, maybe 5 more reps, depending on how fast we're going. And again, if you want to really challenge yourself towards the end, we just pause and hold right here, right now. 5 seconds left. 3, 2, 1, and time. Okay. So we have one more round. The third set of both of these, which is probably good news, because the 60 seconds, especially the split squats, I know, are really dang hard. And it feels, hopefully, we've done this before. We did it in our last block programming. Hopefully it's feeling a little easier than last time we did it. Although, hopefully you're also sort of challenging yourself a little bit more. So maybe it's not easier. All right, here we go. Third round, last and final set, everyone, through these split squats. So we'll try to do the same thing that we did on the second set, maybe even on the first set if you didn't change anything around. But overall, we want to finish this minute feeling like we really need to stop. Okay, so whether they need to slow the heck down, specifically on the way down, we want to keep the way up quickly. If you're still feeling like it is not that challenging, you can also then pause. This one will be a pause at the bottom. So we can hold down here before we push up to the top. 20 seconds for you to get that going on this last leg, this last set of these ones. Yes, 10 seconds. Strong finish. 3, 2, 1, and time. Okay, so then we'll step that foot forward. Woo! As much as we want to sit down, walk around, we'll just try to stay here with our feet in line with each other so that we can get going right away, putting up that second leg. But not quite yet. We have just over 10 seconds left before this timer is going to beep. So again, we'll take those deep breaths, try to get ourselves in that mind state that we are going to try to do the same thing, push ourselves the same way, and here we go. Here is our last chance to do so. So we'll bring ourselves home with these split squats. Feeling good because it's our last set, but also, again, maybe feeling not so good in the legs because they're starting to really feel fatigued and worked. Specifically the glutes, the back of the hips in this one here. 30 seconds left. We got this. As much as you might not think you do, this is the kind of burn. It's a great example of the kind of burn you can work through, you can push through. And that breath is always going to help you. That breathing out, that exhale, literally will help you push out of those situations when you don't think you're going to make it. Less than 10 seconds. You have 2 more. Give you one long one wherever you are. 3, 2, 1. Time. Okay. Last set of our hip thrusts. So we'll get ourselves into formation so that we have no wasted time in this last and final set. 60 seconds. Last timer movement until we do our core work when we're back on a timer. Starting in 5 seconds. So get on down there, set up your feet, And here we go. And we want to make sure that the whole time we're drawing our belly button into our spine so that we're not flaring up our ribs. And again, we're pushing all the way up, so we really feel that top end squeeze on our glutes. We're not missing out on that range by not coming all the way up. So even if you think you're all the way up, try to really contract your glutes to really meet that top end. And again, that is where we're going to hold that pause if we choose to do so, which you might just want to on this last set. 30 seconds left, and then we are done these ones. Both of these. Okay. There's last one. 5 seconds. 3, 2, 1, and time. Okay, everyone, it's work. You can stand it up. Timer is going off. We are done. That first part, which was a whole situation. Hopefully we're feeling that. Like I said, all those things that you should be feeling. Right now, you can grab some water, walk it off, shake it out, and get yourself ready and set up for part 2 of today's strength, where we are going to do a superset. So for our first movement, we have a combination move, that single leg deadlift to reverse lunge, where we will preferably have one heavier weight. So I'm going to take both of my 8-pound dumbbells and hold them on one side here as we work through our single deadlift to reverse lunge, which looks a little something like this. We have the deadlift, we come all the way up, and then we have the lunge, we come all the way up, driving this knee slightly forward, just so it's not left back behind here between each of those. So the deadlift, we drive the knee forward, and then the lunge, we drive the knee forward. That would be 2 reps for me. We're doing 8 of these on each side. So this is going to be our first movement. We are starting right now. We have another exercise that we're going to pair with this, but we are going to talk about that after you're finished your first set of these ones here. Those of us who are using bands, just as you hopefully presumed on that first set with that split squat, we are going to anchor that band underneath opposite foot. And then again, work with that deadlift to lunge. And that's 1. Both of these movements equals 1. We are doing 8 reps on each side. So let's go ahead and get started on these guys right here. Once again, we want to make sure that we are moving through the hips on that first one, just like we practiced in that step through that we did, going a little bit lower, of course, in that deadlift. And then in the lunge, we go into that lunge, 90 degrees at both knees. We want to really focus on the front leg, pulling ourselves up, as we often will practice with those skater squats and with those slider lunges. Same feeling should be going on here with the very isolated single leg feeling. 8, which will really allow you to get this going on. Again, feeling that similar work as we had in the first part in the back and maybe even a little bit in the sides of that standing leg hip. And then again, we'll do the same thing on the other side. So we have to do both sides here. So we have 8 over here, and then we'll switch 8 on the other side. That arm that is not holding the weights, we want to make sure it's out and strong. It's not flopping all over the place. That's going to help promote that strong core, tight upper body situation that we want in these movements. This combination move, I should say. So we'll get through this, which does take us a little bit to do, because we have to do both sides. And then again, we have our secondary movement that we're going to pair with this one, which is going to be our front-loaded squat, our front-loaded goblet squat. So as we are finishing up, you probably are still working on your second leg, and that's all good. We are going to load up our weights. Again, I'm going to use both of my 8-pounders, widen up our feet, add that slight angle out into our toes, sitting down into a squat, holding for 1, 2, and then standing up to the top. That's 1, 1, 2. Standing up, that's 2. We're doing 8 of these total, and that is going to conclude our first round. Sorry, my charger's not charging. That's really kind of. There we go. Perfect. Okay, so 8 of these with that 2-second promenade pause at the bottom. 1, 2. I'm not talking a 1, 2 or a 1, 2. We want a Mississippi count or a very honest 2-second count. 8 times. No rest. We are going right into our second set, back into that first one, that single leg, 2, reverse lunge, and we have 2 more rounds to make it 3 rounds total. So we've already done 1, yay. We have 2 more sets, and again, we're going to try to limit the rest as much as possible between the movements, between legs, of course, and between our rounds. So once we finish those squats, we will try to get going into it again with no rest, even though our legs are probably burning, through our second set. There we are. Okay, so 8 and 8. Awesome. I'm trying to keep it even on both sides. Remembering with that deadlift, we want to make sure that we're not opening up the hip. We want to take that hip and close it, or take that bottom foot and turn it in towards the floor so that we really get that, again, single leg focus. Even though it burns more doing it that way, but that is our proper technique, which we are always trying to lock in, of course, when we're doing these movements. So we'll work through the second set, taking our sweet time with it, and again, trying our best to keep this as focused on that one leg as possible. So not pushing ourselves up with the back leg, and again, really loading up that hip in that deadlift. This one's pretty much foolproof. If you're doing all of those things, you'll really get this going on again in your glutes and in the sides of your hips. You also might feel some work happening in your hamstring, running down the back of your leg, specifically from that single leg deadlift that we're working on. Then, as we move on to the squats, we're going to feel some quad action going on. We'll sit down into those squats, again, trying to pause for 2 seconds. If you're stuck with sort of lighter weights like me, you want to make this a bit harder for yourself, and we can slow down our descent. We're going to keep that 2 seconds at the bottom, keep it fast on the way up, but if we are wanting to make it a bit harder, we can take 3 to maybe even 4 seconds to get down there, rather than our normal 2 seconds. You can apply that right now, or you can apply that to your final set, because we have 1 more round of these 2. Yay, 3 sets is always nice. And then we have 1 more part to our strength, and then we are coring it up on the floor to take us to the finish line of today's session. So we are getting there. Woohoo. Okay, so we have some time with it. We have about 3 minutes, 2 to 3, to finish up this last set. So we'll get those squats, and then we are going again right into that last set. And because again, we're skipping the rest, we're not taking time between our rounds, we are most likely going to feel like these are getting harder as we go. So if you're feeling that way, that is happening for a reason. So we're going to try to work into that feeling, that uncomfortable feeling that we're always talking about and trying to achieve. And again, we'll try to keep it even as to what we just did on our second set, when we maybe felt a little bit better than we do right now. Or maybe you love this part, so maybe this feels better. I don't know. Everyone's different. Okay, so we'll finish up our deadlift lunges. And breathing through these ones. Especially when things start to feel really hard, sometimes it's easy to sort of hold our breath. So we'll make sure to keep that breath flowing, because this one is that sort of combination move. You just want to keep breathing the entire time. And then the squats. So we'll finish up that final set of these ones. If you want to challenge yourself, take a slower descent, but before we pause that bottom. And all of us are hitting that 90 degrees. And unless, again, you have a reason why you shouldn't, which we probably already talked about before, so you can ignore that. But most, if not all of us, are able to get down there. We want to make sure we are so that we're not missing out. We don't want to pause up here. We want to get all the way down. 90 degrees in the knees. Last set. Just about 30, maybe 60 seconds for those of us who need it, before we are going to move on to our final superset for the strength, which is going back to requiring this chair. We are going to be working with a single leg hip thrust now. We have a little bit of a core addition here into this. We're also, once again, going to need our dumbbells for our second movement. Okay, but I want you all to once again join me in this first exercise. For those of us who don't have this chair, this bench, or something that we don't want to put our sweaty back on, you're going to do all this stuff on the floor, just as you did with our first two movements, which I didn't really specifically mention, but I always do, so hopefully you gathered that. With these ones here, single leg hip thrust, we're going to have the core addition. Same setup as our double leg, except we're going to take our feet and walk them together so that they're almost touching knees and feet. Again, we want to make sure our core is tight, so we're bringing that ribs and pelvis and sort of squeezing them in. And then we're going to reach the very top of that hip thrust. You do a little check to make sure you're at 90 degrees, straightening out that leg. This is where that core comes in. We're also going to feel some additional work in that quad, lowering the hips down and then pushing up. The whole time we're trying to keep our legs in line with each other. So you can do a little check for yourself, look down the whole time, try to keep this leg straight as possible so that you're squeezing that quad. And then again, hitting that top range. So we're feeling that work happening on this glute. 10 on each side. So when you're ready and nuts, we are going to start with this one here. 10 on this side. I do not presume any, if not many of us, will want to add weight. Although if you do, if you find that these are kind of easy, what you can do is same thing, put one dumbbell on that hip, the one with the bent knee on that side, and then you just hold it in place with one or two of your hands. And then again, we want to focus on that straight leg situation on that opposite. And we should feel the core, a little bit extra quad action over here. And then of course, the glutes, which seem to very often be part of the deal on these leg days. They are important to work. All right, so we'll work this on both sides. 10 over here, and then we switch. Second side is most likely going to feel a lot harder because we have sort of two things going on at once. Both sides are working just sort of in different ways. They do affect each other. Once we're finished that, we are going to stand up and finish you off with our part 2, which is going to be a straight leg deadlift. So we have that parallel feet situation, narrow feet, heels right underneath our hips. Weights are in front of us, soft knees. We're going to hinge our hips back, working with a nice slow 4 seconds to get to the bottom. So all of us are going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we pull the hips forward. Again, coming back up to the top, pushing the hips back into that descent, and then pulling forward. So we're really making sure that we're moving through the hips and we're not rounding our back or just lowering the weights down. We want to really stick the butt back. We're going to feel this work in the hamstrings, back of the legs, and then again, of course, the back of the hips. So we're doing 15 of these, 15 reps. I guess I should always start with that so you can start counting right away, which hopefully you do. 15 of these guys with that nice slow down phase. So same thing if you want to count that 4 seconds for your first few reps. A lot of counting before, and then the 15 on top of that. So again, you can just get into a rhythm and try to find that same sort of tempo as we go through our set. We'll keep no time at the bottom, and then we want a nice quick 1 to 2 seconds on the way up. So that up phase there is not so important, although it is important that we're pulling the hips forward. But in terms of the tempo, we want to spend all that extra time in that lowering phase. Those dumbbells should end up right below the knees. For those of us who are more bendy, more flexible than others, We may have to simply just sort of think about this a bit more, getting that tight feeling in the back of the hips, and then we'll stand up. But again, that extra time really does help. Okay, so this is us. Once again, we have 3 rounds, my friends. You just did 1. We're gonna skip the rest. Same deal as we did superset. Going right back to our first movement, that extended single leg hip thrust. So ready or not, let's get going into it, into our second round. 10, 10, and then we'll get right back up in here into our eccentric straight leg deadlifts of 15 reps. 2 more rounds, and then the legs are gonna have a break because we're gonna hit the core, work it until the end of the session here, and it's all floor work. So we get to lay down, sit down on the floor. Give our legs a break, so we'll make sure to get them all that work that they need, they might not want. That's why we're here right now on this second and again our third round of these ones. So we'll get going here. And for those of us who do not have dumbbells, ideally we do want something weighted in our hands or a long band underneath our feet. But if you only have these loop bands, then we can hold them down by our sides like this. And again, just really focus on hinging the hips back. But in this one, much more beneficial to have that weight, that resistance. Again, even if you're using that heavy water jug or box of water bottles or whatever it is, weight in your hands, it's going to give you much more than that band. Okay, so as you are working through your second set, 15, okay, 4 seconds, an honest 4, and sometimes it can be hard to count. Some of us are just naturally faster counters than others. But as you work through these last 2 sets, I am going to set our timer here for our final part, which again is all about our core and our abs. And it's going to take us to the finish line of today's session. And it takes us 12 minutes, my friends. So we have about 2 more to finish up this set here, and then to get through your last one, which is plenty of time, again, as long as we are hustling between our legs, between our sets, and we're not accidentally taking the rest that is not on the menu. Especially when we're at home, sometimes that can be easy. But those of you who are here live have a better chance. On the replays, I get it. It can be, things can distract you and such. Okay, so we'll work through that last set. 2 minutes until we are going to start talking about our last few movements, which are all about the core. So we'll try to get the most for the legs by finishing strong here in this last set of our last superset. For the legs. There we go. Now, as we are finishing up, if you are coming to an end before that 2 minutes is up, you're already done maybe. Maybe you counted a bit fast if you're already done, but that's okay. You're finished. We are going to put this stuff away. We're done with the dumbbells. We are done with the bands as well as our bench and chair. If you're like me and you're a little bit short on space, then we can go ahead and move everything out of our way. All right. So again, take your sweet time. We don't want to rush through these last 15 eccentric straight leg deadlifts. Okay. All right. So then we'll finish up strong. Once you're done, if you're already done, and clear that space, you can go ahead and grab some water. And then slowly make your way down onto the floor, which is good news because you're probably feeling quite worked in that lower body. Hopefully, that was the goal for all of us anyhow. Again, we do not need any equipment, just our number one piece of equipment, our body. Of course, we want that soft surface, our exercise mat to work on top of. We are going to start off with a plank variation. This plank is a front to side plank, so it's a dynamic plank. We're going to start off in that plank position with our arms specifically like this. Now, before you get in there and going, we will be doing this for 45 seconds. So we're going to have 45 seconds of work on the clock, 15 seconds to switch between that one and the next two movements that we are going to go through. We have 4 rounds of this last core circuit, and then we are done. So let's talk about this first one. The other 2 movements we are going to show you on that 15 seconds of rest on the timer. Again, specifically, we want the arms crossed over this way because we're going to be going from a front plank like this, opening up into a side plank. I'm turning onto the sides of my feet, back onto my toes, and then I turn, so we want to make sure our feet are wide enough so that we can end up on the sides of our feet. We don't want to end up here. We want that full rotation in our hips so that we're ending up there. And again, this is going to be a lot safer and stronger on your shoulders than having our arms in our forward plank parallel position. This is not such a great place to be, whereas this is much better. So let's set ourselves up. 45 seconds, starting in 3, 2, 1, and let's go. On to our first set. So we'll take our sweet time. In this one, the slower you go, the more control you can give yourself, the better. The safer, of course, the more direct core work that you're going to get. If you want to really challenge yourself, what you can do is take a full inhale, exhale at each one of those planks. So inhale, exhale, and then open up, inhale, exhale, back to the plank, yes, and then again to the other side plank, just working with a tempo that you can control. 10 seconds left. There we go. 3, 2, 1, and rest. Nice work. Okay, so the next one we're going to do is on our back. You can come on down, lay down, feet are up in the air. We're going to straight legs, toes are pointed down towards our face, triangle in the hands, reaching the arms back, and then exhale, crunching up towards the toes. This is us for 45 seconds. Now in this one, if we want to make this harder, we're going to reach over or behind the head like this, rather than towards the actual feet themselves. For all of us, regardless of where you're reaching, we want to make sure that the shoulder blades leave the floor every single rep. We also want to make sure that our arms touch the floor. So we're coming all the way down, and then again, shoulders leave all the way up every time. 10 seconds left. There we are. 3, 2, 1, and time. But don't go anywhere. Stay on your back. We are going to now take our hands and support our hips. We can sort of rock our hips right and left. So our arms are straight, palms on the floor. We feel that supported feeling on either side of our legs. Lower back squished into the floor. We'll lower the legs till we feel the back wants to come up, and then we flutter kick. We'll point the toes. Keep the legs straight, and again, the lower we go, the harder, but we have to keep the back down. So there's no sense in going all the way down. If your back's popped up off the floor, it's number 1, putting your low back at risk for injury. Number 2, it's taking all the work off of your core, and again, putting it on your back, and that's not what we want. We are here for the core, for the abs, and so we want to make sure the back is down. Again, we're working with something that we can control that the whole time, in which we have 5 seconds left, almost there, and time. Okay, that was 1 round. We're doing it again 3 more times, and we are done. We are out of here. Back to the first one, that alternating plank. So we're going from the front to side. Here we go. Right away, 15 seconds. Might sound like a lot. It's not a lot. And you already know it's not a lot of time. So we'll try to just move between these ones, transition, hustling between our switches. 30 seconds left, but again, taking our time with these movements, not rushing through them. We're not trying to get as many of these side planks in as possible. We're trying to really control turning onto our feet, opening up our hips, following our hand with our eyes so that we're really opening our chest and turning to each side. 10 seconds left. Got this. 3, 2, 1, and rest. Okay, on your back you go for those toe touches, which again might be more of an air touch or an overhead touch if you are looking to challenge yourself. 3, 2, 1, here we go. So again, legs are up and straight, reaching to the floor, and then exhale and crunching those shoulder blades off the floor every time. So on this one, again, we're feeling that sort of direct work down the front of our core. Same thing with the low back, especially those of us who are still working on getting that core nice and strong. You might feel like your back sort of wants to pop up. You're going to get way more out of this one if you keep that back down. 10 more seconds. Wherever those arms go, we'll try to get a couple more. And exhaling as you crunch up. 3, 2, 1, and rest. Okay, so now again, we'll take those hands, sort of wiggle our hips right and left so that we have that support for our hips, for our spine. Couple deep breaths. Lift up the legs, back down, lowering the legs until we feel challenged. And here we go. We want to move those feet, flutter those feet, challenging ourselves, but not compromising by letting that back come off the floor. 30 seconds left. Once you've found that point that you're maintaining, that's when you can start to kind of maybe see if you can go a little bit lower, but keep in mind that a little tiny difference goes a long way in this one. A little lower will make you feel a lot more challenged and might, again, lose that contact, which we need. It's crucial. Especially now. Last 5 seconds. 3, 2, 1, and rest. Okay, third set. Back to the first one. We have those alternating side planks. Flipperoo. Deep breath. Cross the arms. Ready? And let's go. Now, if you're someone who's really struggling with this one, wider feet gives us a wider base of support. It's going to make it feel more manageable. On the flip side, again, if you are looking to challenge yourself, then we'll pause, open up in the side plank, hold, and then close and hold. Again, you're not going to get as many. We're going to get that sort of isometric, that holding contraction, which is harder than if we just leave that position right away. 15 seconds left. Try it out for yourself if you would like. Now we're in your last set. So you have one more round. 5 seconds. 3, 2, 1, and time. Okay, everyone, on your back for the toe touches, starting in 3, 2, 1, and let's go. And crunching up off the floor. Shoulder blades leave every single time. We want to make sure that we're not poking our neck. We want to tuck our chin in. Although you might feel some work happening in your neck, it's because there's muscles that run down the front, the sides, and the back of your neck. That being said, if you're feeling like too much work, you might accidentally be doing a little poke neck situation every rep. So we'll just remember to tuck the chin in and make sure that we're feeling the shoulder blades leaving the floor every time. 15 seconds. And breathe. There you go. Exhaling is going to help you get a little higher off the floor. 3, 2, 1, and okay, flutter kicks, and then we have one more round. And we're done. Woo! Okay, so we'll take those hands, support our hips, do a little rock away, which does help a lot. Overall, to just help us have that stronger support of our low back. And here we go. Straight legs, and we'll point our toes upward. so that they're not just lazy legs. We want straight legs. We want to feel our quads. We want to feel our calves, our toes. Everything is working in our legs. And then, of course, that back is thwacked to the floor. 20 seconds left, which means you're more than halfway there. And you are much more than halfway there through this circuit. So one more set. I'll finish. Couple stretches, and you're free to go. 10 seconds left. Let's get it. 3, 2, 1, and okay, back in the plank, and then this shall be our last set. So we're going to finish up strong, starting in 5 seconds. Cross the arms, set up your feet, lift it up, and here we go. Opening up side to side. Taking our sweet time. Again, not rushing through these ones. Finishing as strong as we started. Remember that first set you did when you were nice and rested. I'm going to try to do the same thing right here for 25 more seconds. Every time we open, we move positions. We're trying to exhale with that. 15 seconds left. You got this. Last chance, last set. You always know you're going to feel way better if you just push yourself a little more than you want to. 3, 2, 1, and rest. Nice work. Okay. Rest / flip over and get ready for our toe touches starting in 5 seconds. So legs up, straight legs. For this one, again, we want to point the toes down to the face. Triangle in the hands, straight arms, and here we go. Exhale, reaching up, shoulder blades leave that floor every rep that we go through. Again, we want to breathe. Try to lift up with that exhale. Not only are we lifting our shoulders off, we also want to consciously push our back down every time we come up, as well as when we're reaching behind our back, because that's sort of when it tends to want to pop off the floor. 15 seconds. Taking it to the finish line. We got this one. We have one more of the flutter kicks, and then we are done. 5 seconds left. 3, 2, 1, and time. Okay, last one, everyone. Arms in, support those hips, and do that little rock away so you get that nice support from your arms and hands. Legs up, straight legs. 3, 2, 1, and here we go. Again, lowering to that point where we feel like it wants to come off, but we still keep it down. And then we start to flutter the legs. Little flutters. We don't need big kicks. We just need little movements here to, again, challenge that position that we're holding with our back. And if you're feeling good, if you're feeling right, then maybe you can go slightly lower. As soon as you feel like you lose that, then bring it back up. Okay, we got 15 seconds. We got Dusty here supporting you through your last bit of your core work. Let's go. 10 seconds left. There you go. 5, 4, 3, 2, and time. All right. Nice work, my friends. We are done the work. So we have a couple stretches. We're starting off with the hips because we did a lot of work from that core work that we just did to all the leg work that we had going on that worked in front of the hips. That, in addition to the whole real life that we live every day that makes these guys tight, we want to take some time to stretch them out. Now we're just going to do one quick set as per usual so that we can make sure that we at least get one set in before you take off and start or continue on with your day. 30 seconds on each side. Although if you do feel like you are tight here or you're feeling tight in your low back, this is going to help you out. And you might want to come back and do another 2 or 3 sets and maybe even hold it a little bit longer than our 30 seconds. 60 seconds is going to give you a bit more benefit than the 30, but 30 is certainly better than no time. Okay. So we'll hang out here. If you joined me when we started, we're going to take a few more deep breaths. Again, feeling that stretch down in front of the hip. Making sure we're holding on so we're not having to think about balance. And we will go ahead and switch sides. So we'll switch over to this other side here and getting that same feeling going on in the hip. making sure that the pelvis is sort of tilted under so that we're really getting that focus in the hip, not in the quad and the front of the thigh, although you might feel a little bit of action going on in there. And we're going to stay here. We have 15 seconds left on this side. And then there is one more stretch, and it is for the butte, the glutes, because we did a lot of work back there. So it is definitely something that if you have another minute, stay with us, and we are going to stretch out the hips, and the same rules are going to apply. If you want to come back, do that longer or additional sets of the stretch for the back side of the hips as well. Your body's going to appreciate it. But again, some of us don't have time. I understand that. So we're going to come out of this one. The last one is going to be for the glutes, which is this pigeon stretch, where we're crossing this leg in front of us and then sinking down. We can come onto our forearms, or we can stay up on our hands. Whatever really makes us feel that stretch more, everyone's different. And we're going to hold this again here for 30 seconds. We might also feel that same similar stretching feeling in the hip on this side here. And for those of us who maybe don't like this one, or maybe we have some pre-existing knee issues that this does not feel so good, you don't have to do it like this. You can always lay on your back, cross that knee over, and go into this lying glute stretch, which is going to give us the same stretch here, just in a little bit of a different motion. That one's nice because sort of gravity does its thing, but this one's nice because it feels a lot more comfortable on the knees. We don't have as much pressure on it, which, again, most of us don't need to worry about, but some of us might need to. So let's stay on that first side. We have about 10 seconds left there. I know I left it, but you hopefully stayed. And then we are going to slowly come out of it when you're ready. We'll switch sides, 30 seconds on this side, and then you are free to go. So we'll take a couple more deep breaths on this second side. Again, hopefully you have switched already. Switched a little bit early there. I'm going to stay there for about 10 more seconds. And then, my friends, you are done with us. So you can release that stretch. And if you feel like you want to, you can go back, do another set of the hips, another set of the glutes. If there's any other stretches that you want to add and incorporate, now would be the perfect time to shine to get those stretches in. But you are done with me today. Hopefully you feel good. Thank you, Tannis and Dave, for hanging out live in the Zoom room. I will hopefully see you guys tomorrow for upper body. And I hope you enjoy the rest of your Monday. Go get her done, and I'll see you next time. My replay watchers, hopefully you also feel good and you also enjoy your day and all those things. And I will also see you tomorrow and or next day for our upper body. Okay, I'll catch you guys later. Bye.